At the end of September, my family and I headed back to Anykščiai, where my wife has some family living. We hit the road on a Friday and spent most of the weekend in this small Lithuanian town. The weather was beautiful, if not just a little too warm for my liking. It was already September 20th. I think it should have been colder by that time in the year. Anyways, bad complaints aside, the goal of this trip was threefold. 1, to meet up with my wife's family. 2, to reconnect with some friends that were passing through. And finally, number 3, to check out Anykščiai's Autumn Festival, which goes by the full name Autumn Apple Festival and Night of Tourism. I was told that in the past it was called the Harvest Festival, which I think is a fairly common thing to have for much of the Northern Hemisphere, in some shape or form. This Apple Festival in Anykščiai had loads of different events. But, well, my life now is centered around my son's nap time, and so there's a lot less that I can attend and show you in this video. I tried to find photos or videos from the festival this year from other people, but there wasn't much that I could find. As for what I had the chance to see myself, there were about 2 streets worth of stalls. And this ranged from people selling apple trees, to wooden arts and crafts, to traditional, locally made foods. There were vendors selling smoked meat and fish, cheese, and sweets. Then around the corner, I think just behind the town's cultural center, was the other street of stalls. Here there were vendors selling jewelry, clothing, toys, and well, basically everything that wasn't food and drink. Walking past here, our family ended up at the restaurant known as Kiemelis, which I guess is Lithuanian for the word yard. There we met up with a few people you might already be familiar with if you've watched some previous videos. There was Lithuanian teacher Victoria, who lives in this town, as well as Jamila, who is known online as Žodžių Mišrainė. There was also Žodžių Mišrainė's boyfriend, who, like me, prefers to remain faceless and anonymous on the internet. After some lunch and catching up, well, soon enough it was our son's nap time and we had to say goodbye. I returned later that evening to meet up with Jamila and boyfriend, and we got to see a little bit more of the festival sites across the river. Apparently there was a light show and a fire event later on in the night, and I don't know what the others did, but as for me, I went home because I was just exhausted and I had to be home to prepare for the next day of travel. So again, apologies for not being able to show you more of this quaint little event. The final part of our short trip consisted of meeting up with my wife's relatives. They didn't speak English, which presented a nice challenge for me and an opportunity to exercise my Lithuanian skills. Over some apple pastry and tea, one of these family members commented on how nice my Lithuanian language skills were coming along, and it was definitely encouraging. The whole trip ended with a car ride home, and our son fell asleep easily in the car seat, which made it the perfect ending for our trip. A side note here, I do know that there are risks and dangers to babies sleeping in car seats, but I did keep an eye on him the entire time. All in all, it was an exhausting but pleasant weekend, and I'd like to say we're getting better at traveling with our infant. Anykščiai is a beautiful little town and perhaps deserves to be labeled a hidden gem in Lithuania. It has a few attractions to experience, but is also quite beautiful and peaceful for those wanting a small town experience. At the same time, it somehow has like 2 rather large supermarkets and then a few smaller ones, which I think is quite impressive for a town of its size. And then again, I'm really sorry I don't have more of the festival to share with you guys, but I think in terms of stuff being sold, it seemed pretty much identical to most Lithuanian fair events I've experienced, whether in Vilnius or Kernavė. The town did smell like apples and apple pie that day, as Victoria had promised, and then that, combined with the nice weather and nice friends, helped to make it a really nice weekend. Hopefully when our son is older, it will allow us to experience public events more fully so that I can share more with you guys. But that's it for me. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Toli stovėjo